Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the final preseason recap for the New York Giants for the 2023 NFL season, facing up against the Jets. All right, so we're going to be recapping the the game versus the Jets. We had a couple of guys show out today. We're going to be doing winners and losers as well. A couple of guys we'll talk about on the fringe bubble, of the roster, guys that will probably make it, probably not. A couple of guys really fought for their job today. We'll get into a couple of those guys like David Sills, who just finds a way every single preseason to remain on the Giants roster. Let's see if he does it again in 2023. But quickly, I guess right off the bat, well, let's talk about the injuries first. Man, it's always the Giants. It's always the Giants where what can go wrong will go wrong. I know a lot of these injuries aren't necessarily significant, but man, I just want to come out of a preseason relatively healthy. Actually, we were relatively healthy, but this is probably the healthiest. I don't know. We got Giants fans in the chat. A lot of Giants fans in the chat. Let me know. I think this was one of the healthiest off seasons we've had in a very long time going into the regular season as a Giants, for the New York Giants. We haven't had any significant injuries. Usually by now we're seeing guys, out for the year, starters out for the year, multiple ones. But let's go over the injuries, man. They all piled up at the same time. I don't know if it's the field, the Giants got a new field. MetLife Stadium got a new field. So I don't know if that's the issue, but let's just run down this real quick and then we'll get on to the meat and potatoes of the recap. So Khalil Pimpleton, first off to note, he was a good thing because he had a hand injury, but he wound up coming back. I think he was the only guy that came back of the guys that got injured. Jermon Green, towards the end of the game, he was getting cooked all over the place, had a shoulder injury. He wound up leaving the game. And then just to quickly rattle off the rest of the guys, Bobby McCain went out early with a concussion off a block that was a penalty. It was good for us, but I mean, I don't think that was a penalty. It was considered a blindside block, which I don't agree with. But he went out with a concussion injury. Wyatt Davis, who was fighting for some roster depth on that inside offensive line, he went out with an ankle injury. Chris Myrick, who I think could make this roster as a blocking tight end. We don't have much of those guys, and I don't know, like Chris Myrick is probably a better receiver than Tommy Sweeney is right now, so the versatility is there for Chris Myrick. Hopefully he's okay, and he could get onto the 53 because he's one of those guys on that bubble fighting for a roster spot. He went out with a hand injury after missing a catch over the middle of the seam. And then Bryce Ford Wheaton, that one is significant because the Giants said they wanted to get a lot. I think he was slated to play the entire game. I would have loved to see Bryce Ford Wheaton, the undrafted free agent rookie wide receiver, get out there and play in this game, and he would have had the majority of the game to try to see if he's worth bringing onto the roster. A lot of people have said that he plays well on special teams as well, so he can be on the roster as that special teams player and also may even get some playing time at receiver in that tough rotation that the Giants are going to try to handle going into the season. And then Zion Gilbert with a hamstring injury. He is a guy that I think is probably going to make the 53-man roster. So the winners and losers for today's game. Now, it's not going to be like a straight up recap. We're not going to go chronologically from the first quarter to the fourth, because to be honest with you, a lot of these guys we're probably never going to see in Giants blue again. Okay. A lot of these guys. So I want to quickly go over some winners and losers, guys that I have my stock going up on and guys that I have the stock going lower on. So let's start off with the positives, man. Eric Gray and James Robinson, man, those guys. Let's also put up the. Let's see here. Let's also share screen. All right, and let's look at the box score real quick. But we got to talk about, and I'm gonna try to avoid copyright right here. I don't know why ESPN is doing that. I'm not trying to get in trouble in here. But let's talk about the running backs, man. Two guys that impressed me that honestly I was very low on going into this last preseason game, because let's be honest, man, the running game, if it's not Saquon Barkley, the running game is going to struggle. But guys that impressed me were James Robinson and Tommy DeVito and Eric Gray. James Robinson had a couple of good runs, man, bouncing out to the outside on one run where it was his best run, 28-yard gain, and then another 10-yard run that he like dragged 4 defenders from like gaining 2 yards to 10 yards. That was a great set of plays for James Robinson. Yeah, Tommy DeVito, I think the pecking order is Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito. But the big question is, does Tommy DeVito even make the roster? Does Tommy DeVito even make the roster? And who knows? Who knows at this point? But I think he made himself a very good case to be the backup for the Giants, whether that be on the practice squad or on the active roster. I think the Giants are going to hold on to him. I think he showed a lot of promise, and being an undrafted free agent rookie playing like that, I was very impressed. I was very impressed. Joey says he won't. Man, we get a little negative here, man. He's a winner. He's a winner. But he plays tough. He makes good reads. One thing I've noticed, and I know the Giants commentators have said it as well, DeVito makes his reads. He doesn't take the first read he sees, whether the guy's open or he's not, and he either throws the ball or tucks it and just falls to the ground like a lot of quarterbacks do. They just crumble. We've seen it time and time again. Look at Jake Fromm, who I heard had a good game with the Commanders today, but Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon, when they were playing with us, I mean, they were looking at their first read. If it wasn't open in that Jason Garrett offense, which was probably a curl route, they're just tucking and running or getting out the pocket, whatever the case is. The last winner is Timon Fox. Timon Fox was everywhere. He is in an active competition with O'Shane Ximines for a roster spot on this edge rushing core, on this edge rushing room, and I think he solidified his spot in the room. I think another guy like Habakkuk Baldonado can make this roster as well. I don't know, over O'Shane, maybe. And we'll see what the pecking order is and how much space is available there for the edge rushers. But Timon Fox was absolutely everywhere today. He's not known as being a guy to drop back in coverage, but you guys know in a 3-4 defense, sometimes those edge rushers are asked to move back and play a little bit of zone. I felt that in the time that Timon Fox did do that, he was okay. Like, he wasn't a liability. I think he held his own. There was an instance where he could have had a possible pick six, but he didn't get his head turned around in time, but it was a forced incompletion. So he still played well when it came to that. Carter Coughlin as well. Benny Ben said Carter Coughlin, he did play very well today. I think he's going to make the roster anyway as a special teamer. He's one of our best special team players on the roster. So Carter Coughlin is a guy that I like a lot. But let me just get rid of the share screen. And Carter Coughlin is a guy that I like a lot. And I think Cam Brown might find himself off the team, because I don't know if they're going to keep both of those guys on there, because we have Isaiah Simmons. We just brought in Isaiah Simmons, and Carter Coughlin, I think, solidified his spot, but I don't know what's going on with Cam Brown. I didn't even see him out there today. So maybe he's hurt. I'm not sure. But let's end this. I think I already ended this poll here. But Bryce Ford Wheaton won with 14 votes. So shout out to BFW. Let's see if he makes the 53-man roster. So I also wanted to go into who starts at the inside linebacker 2 position. We haven't even talked about Isaiah Simmons today, who, obviously, the elephant in the room, he is the guy we just traded for not too long ago. And 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, and my memory escapes me at this time, but it was like 1 or 2 days ago at this point. It broke like NFL media, which is weird because we traded for him for a 7th round pick. But it's obviously he's going to make this roster. But there were a lot of talks of him possibly not being the starter. So I want to throw a poll in there for you guys. Who starts at the inside linebacker 2 position? I thought Micah McFadden won this one, but when we traded for Simmons, I thought that Simmons just took that one away, and Micah McFadden would play sort of a rotational role. But who starts at the inside linebacker 2 position, guys? Let me know. Let me know. But as we do that, let's talk a little bit about the stock down. Who did not play the best. And the first name I want to start with is one of the guys in the polls is Darian Beavers. Now, if those of you guys that follow me on social media or follow my YouTube channel, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel, KidBlueRB27. Also on Twitter, KidBlueRB27. If you guys care to follow me on those platforms. When it comes to Darian Beavers versus Micah McFadden, I've always been a really big Micah McFadden fan. Now, I just feel like he's better than Darian Beavers. I feel like he's more ready to start. And for the most part, he has been doing that. And the Giants coaching staff, as well as Wink Martindale, have spoke very highly of Micah McFadden. And Darian Beavers had his chance to shine here because Micah didn't play a lick, even a snap today. So it's clear that he is looked at as being a guy that is pretty much locked in for the roster. Darian Beavers pretty much played the majority of this game, and I don't think he did anything to help himself. Like, that was a straight up competition there with Beavers and Micah McFadden. And it seems like McFadden and Simmons are really going to get the bulk of that inside linebacker 2 snaps there. So yeah, we have no votes so far for Darian Beavers, and it's kind of disappointing because you want to see these guys compete, and you want to see each guy be just as good as the next because that helps the competition. Iron sharpens iron. But man, I just didn't feel like Darian Beavers held his own out there. He didn't really make any impact plays. He honestly looked a little bit slow, in my opinion. He didn't do his thing in the run game. He didn't lay any crazy hits like a lot of people thought he was, being a bigger body linebacker. One of those, I guess a lot of people said, quote unquote, old school linebackers his kind of frame presents as. But even a undersized, bit faster, bit thinner Micah McFadden outplays him the majority of the time. So I don't think Darian Beavers held his own there. I don't think he made a good case to getting snaps over McFadden or a Simmons. But it seems like Simmons is running away with this one when it comes to who will start at the inside linebacker 2 position. And my last, I guess you could kind of crumble them all together. Who did not win? Who was the biggest loser of this game? It's the offensive line. Oh my goodness. These running backs, listen, it's not only the running backs' fault, like Eric Gray and James Robinson, guys that are slower, that really can't burst through that offensive line. It's not only their fault they're not getting a lot of yardage. It's that offensive line. The interior O-line, there were 3 or 4 plays just in this game where they got right through and got the running back. They almost tackled the running back and the quarterback, on the handoff. Like, that happened 3 or 4 times in this game. That is not something you want to see from any string of offensive linemen. Not any string. First, second, third, because sometimes these third stringers are going to be out there on game day because of injuries. Offensive linemen get hurt probably the most out of any position in football because it's such a tough physical position that takes a huge toll on these guys' bodies. And man, if any of these guys are out there, it is going to be a field day for the opposing defensive line. Oh my goodness. More holes than Swiss cheese. Absolutely. Are they keeping James Robinson? I would hope so. I think him being that third running back. Listen, Breida's spot is not locked. Matt Breida's spot is not locked on this roster. So I don't know. But Breida adds speed. He has an element of speed that, unfortunately, James Robinson and Eric Gray do not provide. So don't know. Jashawn Corbin is a guy that may not make the roster as well. I like Jashawn Corbin. He might see himself on the practice squad for the second straight year. Parrott was horrendous. Absolutely. I was a big Parrott fan coming out in that 2020 draft. I was so happy when the Giants drafted both him and Andrew Thomas in the first and third round, respectively. I was so happy for them and happy for Matt Parrott. I really liked him coming out, but man, he has not done very well. He was coming off that ACL injury, and he has just not been the same. He had a couple of decent blocks that Carl Banks was trying to save him on. Carl Banks was trying to say, oh, well, look at Matt Parrott out there. But man, the negatives definitely outweighed the positives. And sure, there were some runs where he looked dominant, but man, he was not picking up stunts right. He was not blocking on the outside right. He was letting guys right through. And for a guy that's probably the most tenured depth offensive lineman on this roster, as a guy who's been on the roster the majority of any of the depth offensive linemen on the Giants roster, he should be a guy that should have been, this is our swing tackle. This is our guy that we're going to put in at right or left tackle should any of these starters go missing, get hurt. And man, he has not proved that. That's why the Giants went out and got Julian Davenport. By the way, he's another loser on this man, in this game. Julian Davenport, we just got him. I was excited for him because I was like, man, Matt Parrott needs his butt to be lit on fire, man. Like we need some competition at that swing tackle position, and he might be worse than Matt Parrott. Crying out loud, he might be worse than Matt Parrott. He looked like a turnstile out there. He was an absolute doorman for any edge rusher going against him, lets them right through, gets beat on the inside, gets beat on the outside, barely gets hands on these rushers and allows them right through. Julian Davenport is another guy that is just terrible. So both the tackle spots are absolutely bad. This Jack Harlow guy, what's his name? Sean Harlow? Not Jack Harlow, not the rapper. Although he could probably play better inside offensive line than these guys out there. But Harlow wasn't good. Shane Lemieux, somebody says Shane Lemieux, NYQ says it. Shane Lemieux was probably the only bright spot. I actually noticed a couple of good run blocks from him and maybe a little bit of pass protection as well. But everybody else was terrible. Tommy DeVito, Tyrod Taylor, these guys had no time to throw at all. Okay, they had to get the ball out extremely quick. The running backs had no lanes to run through. They were forced to bounce outside constantly, and that is a big, big issue for the Giants as far as their depth goes. We have to hope and pray that this offensive line, the starters, that they stay 100% healthy. And we know that's not going to happen. It is football. This is a violent sport. Offensive linemen get hurt all the time. It's very rare you're going to see all 5-year starters stay healthy throughout the season. We are going to see some of these guys that play tonight on the football field at some point in the regular season. So if you guys want to see more content from me, I will be back on the Bleacher Report during the season as well. So thank you, Bleacher Report, for having me on. Always awesome coming in here and talking to you all. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next time.